Um, so what I wanted to show you today was I'm going to share my screen as well, of course, otherwise it's going to be hard for you guys to see what I'm doing. What I wanted to show you guys is I have, admit that person, oops, never stop sharing again. So I've created this laboratory for you guys a while ago, the Heart Laboratory. And this laboratory has a couple of vulnerabilities in it that I think are pretty lifelike to issues that I would find online, that I would find in a real target. Now, I'm going to go over them because I think it's important to notice. And then maybe today we'll also talk a little bit about broad scope hunting, because I think that broad scope hunting and main application hunting are two very different things. I know not everybody agrees with me on that, and that's because they adapt their broad scope, sorry, they adapt either their broad scope methodology to work well on a manual target, or they do it the other way around. They adapt their manual strategy to work on a broad target. Now, I prefer the narrow scope targets, the main applications. Those are what really get me excited, because those things have a lot of functionality in them, and I can actually go very deep. I don't have to stay at a surface level. That's very important to me. I don't want to have an application where I'm going to look for all of the parameters that I can find and etc. No, I want to do this functionally, because that's what I'm strong at, and that's what's important if you want to go bug bounty hunting, is that you should do things that you're strong at. Today, somebody on Twitter asked the question, like, how do I get over the stuff that I find boring? And one good answer was you don't. You just stop doing the things that are boring. That's the beauty about bug bounties, is that we can focus on the things that we enjoy doing. Now, I'm more of a functional rat, but I've also done the broad scope thing, so I know how it works. I found some vulnerabilities with it, and it's quite fun, actually. You can automate a lot of stuff, and you can find a lot of vulnerabilities, especially if you're diligent and you can keep your subdomains and a new CVE comes out. You're able to actually program that CVE into a nucleate template some of the times, and then you can automatically scan all of the subdomains that you already have with your nucleate template. That often gives a pretty good result, and that's a little bit about how the big bug bounty hunters also try to make money, is to try to report medium vulnerabilities at scale. Of course, they're hunting for those big criticals as well, but those criticals are not a guarantee. And I can tell as well that those mediums, they're pretty much a guarantee. If I'm looking for business to business issues like I'm doing right here, then I can almost always find something. Not on every target. That is not what I'm saying. I have to be able to pick my targets, because, of course, I don't want the targets that I don't like. I don't want the targets that are not business to business application, or the targets that have too strong of a security. So I really have to be careful with what target I pick. But if I do pick the right target, I can more often than not find something cool in there. So for this laboratory, I've left in some easy things as well, but I've left in some hard things as well. It's not all going to be easy, of course. Now, the first thing that I've done here is, if you look at this image, it's hosted on GitHub. Now, if you go to that specific GitHub page, you can see that there are other files on there, and one of the files contains a secret. And that's often how I do, like if they do broad scope and they say everything is in scope, okay, then I'll also look for GitHub stuff. So GitHub often contains issues like this. Well, this is just the image, but if I go back to the folder, I see a secret.txt in here. So that was one of my vulnerabilities, and the reasoning behind this was I'm going to hide something in here. Now, what I could also have done, and what I'm going to do as well, is just remove this file. Now, what I can do then is I can look in my commit history, and I can still see that file there. So if I'm going to commit this change, I can still, as you can see, nothing exists here anymore, because of course I've just deleted it. So here we go. Sorry, do you have a question, my friend? All right, if you guys have any questions, feel free to just interrupt me, and don't worry about that. So in here, I can look at the commits right now, and I can just click here, and I can see deleted cheesy labs secret.txt. Oh, what was that file? I'm going to look at the difference. Oh, there we go. We have our API keys. So I wanted you guys to know that it's important not just to look in here, but also look in the commits. I didn't do it for this challenge because it was quite a hard challenge as is, and I didn't want to make it harder. But that's one of the issues that were in there. Now, the next one that I'm going to talk about is the search page. Now, the search page is hidden. As you can see, it's hidden from the general public. Now, as you can see in here as well, there's a comment in here for a search.php page. Now, if we try this search.php, it's not going to work. It's going to say not found, but I think it was hidden.php. We have to go to, no, that's for the login page. That's a different vulnerability. It's on find.php. The thing is, for this specific vulnerability, I would need something else first. So I'm going to look at the login page, but the source code of my page here doesn't contain enough information. First of all, I would have to try some things. And a lot of you have been trying to log in with default credentials like test. That is nothing wrong with that, but you should try and go a little bit beyond that, just a little bit. And then you can see admin, but also the name of this is the Cheesy Labs. So I'm just going to put this as a username and password. And I wonder what happens then, because then I might get logged in. And as you can see, now I'm logged in, but nothing really happens. I come to admin.php on here, and there's nothing really here except for, of course, and here in the source code. Sorry?
Dormitorio, veterinaria, fantasía.
I don't understand that. Can you speak English, please?
La idea es que después tú vas a ir comprando, vas comprando los...
Mami, quiero ver.
Sorry, I really can't understand that. If anybody can understand that, feel free to translate. I'm sorry, if you have like a question, feel free to ask it in English. I really can't understand it, but I'm going to mute you. Feel free to ask it in the chat. I don't want to be bothersome, but I just need to get on with this stuff. So for here, I can see that there is some hidden things as well. There is a hidden admin.php in here. And as you can see, there's like, okay, I'm going to make a get call to admin.php with a query. So let's try that. I'm going to make a query here, question mark q equals, and then test or 1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever. And as you can see, this is how we can search. So there is a search page. You just had to look really carefully. You had to log in first as an administrator, and then you had to actually get those, like the credentials properly, because as you can see, a lot of people tried with test, but it's actually Cheesy Labs in this instance. And that's because it's on the page. It's just right there in front of you. But a lot of people just didn't try it. So that's where they get stuck already. And that's a shame, because there are a lot of things in here. Now, the first vulnerability you will have to do, this is basically a broken access control as well. And in here, you're going to have a reflective cross-site scripting as well. Let's see. So I'm going to try this specific tag vector here. And this should bring me a pop-up, but of course I'm not. There we go. And as you can see now, there it says nothing found for, and then the specific query that I put in. And I'm going to put in an input on focus, because this specific filter, it blocks on load, on alert, it blocks images, SVG files. So I'll have to try a different thing. And what I'm going to try here is there's a port swigger cheat sheet as well, which as you can see here. And you can just try it. You can just try all of these different tags, all of the different event handlers. You can try that in there. So you should try all of the different tags. In this specific instance here, you can see then that input will not be blocked. So if I go back and I just remove all of this stuff, then you can see that input is not blocked in this specific instance, I can just, it renders as an HTML entity, but that also means that I can look further and I can look at the specific event handlers that are blocked in this case, because if I now put on load or something like that, which will be, I can just type space in here, by the way, so onload equals error, then I can, so unload equals error. Then sorry, error. What am I doing? Hello, Uncle Rat. Good morning. So as you can see, the onload is actually blocked in this instance as well. So that's the way to go about this kind of stuff, is you go and you look at this reflective process. You look at all of the specific tags that you can put in here. And if one renders, you can look at the specific event handlers as well. Now, this is pure HTML injection. I didn't do anything strange with HTML tag injection or JavaScript injection or any of that. So as for this script that you found on here, because there was a script as well, this is not it. Going to have to go back to the body. The script is, it should be in here somewhere. Oh, right, it's on the home page, of course. I put a script in here. Let's find it real quick. Oh, come on, Mr. Script, where are you? There is an obfuscated script in here somewhere. Wow, I made this and I can't even find it. There we go. So this is the script. It's obfuscated in this instance. And how you could have seen it is if you scroll down a little bit. It's hard to see, but there is some things printed in here, which is something you might have been able to notice, but it's always better to just look at the source code completely and try to find any JavaScript in there. That always helps quite a lot now. This JavaScript here is obfuscated. Now, how do you go about this? Because you can see a couple of strings in here. You can see some random stuff in here like log, apply, warn, constructor, blah, blah, search, function, blah, blah. So what this basically is first of all, you can pretty print this so you can make it look better, because it's really hard to see what's going on. Pretty print JavaScript. Ooh. There we go. And we're going to beautify the code, and that's going to make it a little bit easier to already read. Now, a lot of you will have tried to control the obfuscation tool for JavaScript, and that's not going to work in this instance because it's basically going to do exactly the same thing as we did in here. So first of all, a lot of you did it with auto decode, which is going to give the same thing that we had already. Only thing is, if you auto decode it, and here you can see the password admin equals blah, blah, blah. In our beautified stuff, we can also see this. So we don't even really have to do any deobfuscation, to be honest. If you would have beautified this script, you would have seen it. Now, that often happens because the obfuscation tools that these developers use, they always use the basic same thing. And what they usually do is they try to keep a string and a value together, because they really don't want to have too much processing time to grab that JavaScript. So what they'll do is they'll basically just minify it. They'll replace the variable names with numbers, but if you maximize it again and if you beautify it again, you might already be able to read quite a lot. Now, it's not going to be everything. So what all of these numbers here are is, you're not going to see it in the obfuscation tool. It's going to display the same nonsense, as these are parts of that array. So you have this array here, and all of these things here are part of that specific array. As you can see, OX201, so it's grabbing one of these specific arrays here, it's grabbing the value there. So that's basically how the obfuscation works. You have to manually go through the entire document. You have to look at what each of these values are, where they're coming from, like this one specifically. Okay, then what is that? I see it in here as well. And then the next location that I can see it is nowhere. So this is the assignment, and it's only used once, and that's it. So then I need to go and look on for this. What am I looking at here? and I go look at it and it's nothing. So I'm probably going to assume that it's some kind of calculation or something, and I move on. If I don't really understand it, I'm just going to throw it aside and I go to the next number in my list. And I keep doing that every single step of the way. And I keep doing it over and over and over again until I have a somewhat readable JavaScript. So that's it for the JavaScript part of the challenge. Now on to the next part, because that was already pretty hard. You already saw the default credentials. Now there's also a stored cross-site scripting, because if I am logged in and if I'm the administrator, I can edit something, and the stored cross-site scripting is going to be in here. This is the field that we have stored cross-site scripting in, and it's pretty hidden now. You're not going to be able to trigger this when you create a new post. You're not going to be able to trigger it because the filter is there. But here, they forgot the filter. It's admin functionality. They are like, okay, I'm not even going to care. It's admin functionality. If you have the admin, then you have it anyway. But still, there is a cross-site scripting in here. And that's with this, I wanted to show you guys that if you want to get that cross-site scripting, you'll have to test every single field, every single time. You'll have to look at all of these things like, okay, the title can be changed here, here, and here. I'll have to test for cross-site scripting on all 3 locations. They might, first of all, have a different endpoint, but besides all of that, they might just be using a different filter as well. So pretty basic. That one is not going to be too hard. Now, if you look at the source code of that, let's see, of edit.php, so there was a, right, if you look at this one, this specific comment here, the dash wip.php file is going well, but the filter is hard. I can't filter everything. So even I got fooled here. This isn't the specific page that cross-site scripting is on, of course. It's on this page. I copied the page. The first page has the filter. This seems like a work in progress. This seems like something that they're just building to see how it works and all of that stuff. So that's why that's even deeper than the first instance. Like if it was just an edit.php, that's already pretty deep. But now the cross-site scripting is going to be stored in here. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Because the first real cross-site scripting that I found that paid me money, 750 euros, that specific cross-site scripting was in a very far away functionality of the application that I am pretty sure almost nobody used anymore. It's been there for months and in comes Uncle Red and he picks it out like nothing. And that's why I think it's very important to test all of these fields properly and to look at every single thing that you can find and even look at old parameters that you have, like, okay, there's a parameter that used to be active because you know that from the Wayback Machine. It's not active anymore, at least not in the current application. So why not just try that parameter, see if the application takes it. So as you can see, very far away things that you have to look for. Of course, the ID of the posts are also reflected cross-site scripting, but not an edit. This is just, if you look at here, this specific ID is reflected in here. So if I go 7870 and I look in the source code, I can find it as well. And this one is going to be, I can terminate my tag in here. So I can terminate the, let's enter those people, shall we? So I can terminate this specific attribute. I can terminate the href attribute. Hey, John, welcome 4 times. I can terminate the href attribute and I can insert my own cross-site script and a tag factor in here, of course. Now let's see, the delete itself. Anybody can do this. So this is a broken access control. Now the problem is if you have this broken access control issue here, like you have delete.php, you can only delete an item 1 time. So that's kind of annoying. And that's not the problem. No, let's see, because somebody is joining quite a few times. Now, the next thing I wanted to say was the delete function is something you and I are going to have trouble with testing because you have to every single time create a new object and then delete that object, create a new object, delete that object, create a new object, delete the object. It's going to take a lot more time than your basic get variables. Even your put variables are going to take less time, and your post variables are going to take less time because those are for the creation of that object. And then you still have to delete it. Now, what's so annoying about that is because once an object is gone, you can't delete it again. Okay, up to that point, so we go testing. Delete seems to be vulnerable because I can execute delete even if I am not logged in. And I can demonstrate this by deleting the first ones. Just edit it and say, I am going to delete this. I am going to delete this. There we go. I hope not. I hope nobody's testing on the website at this moment. So then we can go back home and we don't see our post. Well, that's a problem. Doesn't matter. So we will delete this specific post in here, 7868. Let's copy it, this specific URL, of course, copy link address. And then what I really want to do is I want to log out as my administrator. So I'm going back to the admin panel. And then here I can go log out. Okay, so now I'm not logged in anymore. I go execute my result and there we go. The delete has been executed successfully. This is something that I really like because these delete things, they take a lot more time to test, but that's also going to scare away a lot more potential bug bounty hunters that are going to test on your target. That's why I always try to delete everything with of course, objects that I'm not supposed to be able to access. And I try to do it authenticated with a different user, don't have one in this case. And I also try to do it unauthenticated for broken access control like this. And it happened. So that's on the delete and on the edit functionality, by the way. So both have that broken access control issue in them. I kept it simple because I really didn't want to scare people away. And I think, oh, sorry, creation of a new item. It's not the edit of another item. So I think that's everything from this specific lab, what I wanted to show you. Just wanted to guide you guys through the things that I would definitely do as a bug bounty hunter and some things that exist in here just to show you guys why. Now, let's talk a little bit about broad scope, shall we? Because broad scope targets, you have quite a few of them on integrity, for example. And these broad scope targets, they're going to be different than your main scope targets, if you ask me. So if you look at the specific public programs in here, by the way, do you guys have any questions about the laboratories I just showed you? Because I just keep rushing on, of course, but feel free to ask me anything you like. I'm guessing that's a no. You can also raise your hand with Zoom, I think. It has a raise your hand functionality, probably. If it doesn't, just type it in the chat. So I see here some questions in the chat. Question mark Q is a classic success parameter, greatest possibility of finding success by lurking when searching for that. I totally agree on one side, but on the other side, I also see a problem with that because a lot of hunters will hunt for that query parameter. Q indicates query in this instance, by the way. So a lot of hunters will actually go for that. Now, why SVG unload worked for you when trying to filter bypass is it only filters lowercase SVGs. So you didn't need that /x, just SVG space unload would have worked. Good job, by the way, on that. And that's something that most filters also have in place, and that's a problem as well. They only filter for the lowercase items. That's why you find all of these different camel case things on the cheat sheet. Because of course you can do SVG with only capital, but then the developers will filter only that capital and then you still have a problem. So you put these random letters everywhere, these random capital letters. It's a really good attack vector. Nice try, I appreciate that. By the way, good job finding that. To get that far was not easy at all. I think a few people have sent in a few vulnerabilities, but nobody sent in the full vulnerability list. So kudos for finding that. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll check regularly. But onto this one, because what I really wanted to show you is, let's take a program like VRT. I think VRT has a vulnerability disclosure program as well, which is excellent for my case, because they have everything in scope almost, except for the shop items. Now, you guys might be wondering, and this is something I wanted to tell you for a while, why the heck out of scope? What does that mean? Because a hacker is not going to care if something is out of scope. Well, guys, I work for this company right now in my day job, and I can tell you exactly why these shop dot blah, blah, blah are out of scope. It's really simple, to be honest. We don't own those things. We don't manage those. We don't manage any of them. And it's really hard for us to go to any of these people and say, hey, you have to implement these security measures, because we have a contract with them and they have a contract, and it's something that they should figure out for themselves. There were a lot of people hacking on this, so they had to put it out of scope. But it's kind of a thing of like, okay, it is something that carries our name and it might carry reputational damage, but it's really important to us that we take on the proper issues and not the ones that we can't even do anything about. Like, for example, this shop.cat.be, the owner, it's really hard to contact him about these types of security issues. So that's why we put it out of scope for now. But if you guys do find any vulnerability issues on these things, first of all, you shouldn't have been testing on them. Really, if something is out of scope, you really shouldn't be testing on it. That's pretty important. And second of all, if you really do find something and you think it's high impact, I would advise you to still mail the company, because of course we do care if there's something in there that could leak client data or something like that. Of course we do care about it and we try to contact the company, but it's not like we can actually do much about it, to be honest. So for all of these different subdomains, you can do a lot of things. But what people will often do is they'll neglect things like the main application, because for VRT.be, oops, I see the meeting is running out of time in 10 minutes, so I'm going to hurry up. For these specific, like VRT.be, a lot of people just neglect the main application and they'll automatically go look for domains. Of course, that's a good idea. You should start your scanners. You should start looking for subdomains. And then if you find subdomains, you should try and run some HTTP probe on them by tunneling them to see if they're alive. Then you can run some things on them, like if they're alive, nuclear vulnerability scanner. So you should definitely do all of those things. But it also pays off to just go through this manually. And if I'm looking for VRT.be, I am going for start.vrt.be. I'll just put in a Google Doc site :vrt.be, but I don't want the www because I might have already checked it out. Oops, pressed the wrong button there. Excellent. And I'm going to do site here. And then I'm already having some, like here, the tal.vrt.be. Never seen it before. Gonna click on it, gonna see what it's all about. Okay, then I have checked it out and I'm going to go to my next one. I'm right now, okay, nws.vrt.be. News, okay, that might be interesting. I'm going to look at it, but I'm really going to do manual recon, sort of, and that's something that I find very important, is that manual recon part of it, because you really want to know what you're testing and you don't want to just blindly put some scanners on a target. It's not going to work, in my opinion. That's why every time I'm testing one of these things, I'm always going to be testing for things like this. I'm just going to be checking around, seeing what's up, like this sandbox.vrt.be. This might be interesting for anybody who's interested in hacking this specific application. I don't know. So this is how I would do my recon. Of course, I'm also going to start my scanners. And of course, I'm also going to start my taking screenshots so I can have a look at them. But I also do this, I manually go recon. Now, you might be wondering, okay, so exactly what Google Docs do I do besides that? Because you can also go to the Google Docs site. I believe it's Pentest.
Recording in progress.
All right. Hello, friend. I think you have your microphone on. Can you please mute it? Unless you have a question, of course. Feel free to ask any questions that you have. You can put them in the chat below, or I can answer them as well. Just normally, it's not a problem. But there's this website, I can't remember its name. It's pentesttools.com. And they give you some really good Google Docs that you can look for, like vrt.be, the company that I work in again. If you guys want to hack on it, highly recommend it. You can look for things like publicly exposed documents, and you can see here, okay, this is a public document. Is this supposed to be public? In this case, it is, but I see some things that are also on here. I can have a look at them. Then I can have my SQL errors. I can see if there's any SQL errors. I can look for directory listing vulnerabilities. And it's really easy to change some of these. And so the manual recon doesn't mean that you have to do everything. Manual recon just means that you have to do things like just going into your application, just trying to hack your application manually, just seeing what's available, and then trying to see if you can find any way around those things like this login pages here. I always try to look at login pages, and whenever I see one that's not from the main website, I just try to directory brute force it if my target allows it. I do that because there might be some unprotected files, and especially if it's a login portal that they have not written for themselves. So that's kind of what I wanted to say about broad scope for now, what I wanted to say about bug bounties. I hope you guys found that interesting. Thank you so much for sticking with me. And I have one question. You guys have nice. Well, thanks for ruining my video on demand, my friend. Let's see. Never got a bounty, but has worked when auditing sites for my friends. This one, do you mean this specific tool or something that we've been talking about before? Why I'm not active anymore on Integrity is because I do a lot of one-on-one coaching sessions and I let my clients hunt. I think it's a lot better to let them hunt while I watch, and then I can correct them on things that I would do, because I can tell you everything that I would do, but that doesn't mean that you can do it as well. And that's important to me, is that we get you to do it in a client session. Now, I myself, I don't have time to hunt on Integrity anymore. Besides the client sessions, I also have a little kid. I write articles, I have my day job, so that's why I don't really hunt for myself anymore. I also do pen testing, which I think is a lot more fun, by the way, because in pen testing, at least I'm sure I can find a vulnerability on my target, on any target, you know. I just have to run a vulnerability scanner, I just have to do my manual vulnerability work, and then bam, I'm pretty sure that I can find at least one account takeover. That's not the same thing in bug bounties, you know. In bug bounties, you can take quite a while to hunt, and then if you find something, it might be a duplicate or something. I never get duplicates when I pen test. That's a big advantage. Now, I don't want to scare you away from hunting, because as I say, I still have clients who I hunt with, but I'm not a person that can spend hours and hours and hours hunting anymore. And that's something that you do need to do if you want to get good at hunting. You need to get very specialized, and you just need to pour in hour after hour after hour. When I just started out, I hunted for 8 hours a day. So, but now I don't really care anymore about these points. My main goal was to get into the Integrity top 20. I got into number 19, and then I stopped hunting for myself because I want to be a teacher. I don't want to be somebody who, of course, I want to hack as well. And of course, I want to see them execute a vulnerability and actually find one, but it's not something that I don't get the same adrenaline rush anymore, you know? So that's a little bit of my history about why I don't hunt on Integrity much anymore. That's a really good question. It's not that Integrity was bad for me or anything, because I still have 26 invites open on private programs on Integrity. So I really like them, you know? Let's see, the next one, you have some really good dorks here, I see. Let's open them up. That's also a really good page. I was not aware of that. Thank you very much for this page. I really appreciate that, Mr. Rex. That's really good. Let's see. You are most welcome. Oh, it's okay, Manikesh. This will be a video on demand as well. I'm sorry that I have to end this meeting, but Zoom is really annoying about that, and I'll probably get the Zoom upgrade so we can have proper meetings in here and have it take as long as it needs. Um, I hope you guys enjoyed, by the way, because I really enjoy doing these live classes. You know, if you have any questions, again, feel free to ask them. As long as you don't play music blaring us, you know, then it's all good. Yes, there will definitely be a video on demand coming up later. I think even this night already. It depends on how busy it gets, but I still have a few things to finish. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Wasteland Majir. I'm sorry if I butchered your name for that. That's my pleasure, Sultan. Thank you very much for being here and always being here. We have less than a minute left, so I definitely have to stop the recording now. And I definitely have to stop the meeting as well, which is a shame because I was really enjoying myself. Thank you all for coming. Bye.